Welcome back. All right, so news of the day video for your Monday, March 28th. Only a couple days till April. So, two minor trades announced in the NHL today. And for people who say, wait a minute, the trade deadline was a week ago, yes. But these are minor league players. They can continue to play in the minor leagues. They just could not be called up and play a National Hockey League game between the deadline and the end of the season, which they're not going to be, so it's not a big deal. So the Carolina Hurricanes and New York Rangers make a deal. Defenseman Tarmo Reunanen, 24 years of age, with 4 games of experience playing for the New York Rangers, 1 assist in that. It traded to Carolina for the Rangers in exchange for Maxim Letunov, who's 26 years of age. He's a forward, and he played 3 games in a call-up for San Jose a few years back. 3 games, 1 goal in those 3 games for Letunov. So it's just a minor league deal. And then another minor league deal made. St. Louis picks up defenseman Brady Lyle, 22 years of age, in exchange for Boston getting future considerations. So future considerations is traded again. Don't unpack your bags if your future considerations, apparently. And so again, this means that Lyle, Reunanen, and Maxim Letunov will not be able to play between now and the end of the season in the NHL, but they weren't playing anyways. So, yeah, I didn't mind Reunanen when he got called up by the New York Rangers last season. And Letunov was a highly thought of prospect at one point for San Jose. So, yeah, we'll see how this plays out. But odds are it's just minor league deals. So, 24, 26, 22, older teams know what they're dealing with kind of thing. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Also, today's news, Koskinen will start tonight for the Oilers, who don't have a goaltending issue for some. Others would say that they do. His overall numbers 23, 10, and 3, 899 save percentage. And in recent starts, Koskinen's had a rough time. Now, in that game against Calgary, the defense was not doing the goaltenders any favors. It didn't seem to matter who was in net there. That whether it was Koskinen or Smith, it didn't matter. But then again, if you believe that the Oilers have a major goaltending problem, that's not going to help, right? So, yeah, and for me, I'm more of the, I guess we'll wait and see come round one where the Oilers are at. There's the other problem too, though, and I mentioned this in the standings video. They're not that far above the playoff line. So for the Edmonton Oilers, if they were to end up going into some kind of a losing streak and end up outside the playoffs, Ken Holland's feet would be to the fire on that one, especially since over the summer he kind of admitted, yeah, I wanted to make an upgrade in net, but nothing really worked. So brought Smith back and Koskinen, and we're going to go for it again. If Koskinen plays well, if Smith picks it up between now and the playoffs, he'll look smart in retrospect. Tyler Johnson returns from concussion protocol tonight for the Chicago Blackhawks. So for Chicago, it's been an interesting month. They're playing against Buffalo tonight. I know that's really highly anticipated of all the games tonight. That's the one people are really chomping at the bit to watch. I will say this, though, all kidding aside, the games between two teams that are outside the playoffs can be highly entertaining. These are guys who are playing for a job for next year. They can be very entertaining. You can end up with some fights in there as well. And a lot of frustration for a team like Chicago that was supposed to be playing meaningful games at this point in the season, and they're not. So Johnson being back in the lineup will be interesting to see how Chicago adjusts their lines and all that. Jaro Halak will start tonight for the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, Canuck fans will have opinions on this. It's against St. Louis, so that'll be interesting too. The tie between Halak and St. Louis, obviously. He's 3-6-2 on the season with an 894 save percentage, but he's coming off of a very good start the last time he was out and a win. And so Halak's looking to turn things around. For Jaro Halak, he's in this spot where if he has a good run from here, and if he makes, say, 4 starts between now and the playoffs, let's just say 4 starts, including tonight between now and the playoffs, and if he plays well and he gets the save percentage above 900, it might help to increase the amount of interest in him for next season, right? He's trying to keep his career going beyond this year, and I think that might be part of his frustration, possibly, right? Where he's saying to himself, my stats aren't great, I need to get into some games, they're not putting me in games. So if Halak ends up starting and having a good game tonight against St. Louis, earns himself more starts between now and the end of the season, it may help him going into next year if he wants to stick around and keep playing. We'll see how that goes for Vancouver. And again, the Canucks cannot afford to lose games. They have to keep winning at a pretty strong rate. The homestand really did. I still think the homestand hurt their chances of making the playoffs, but this road trip has helped as they're 2-0-1 on it. So we'll see tonight against St. Louis how that turns out. Then they have to play St. Louis again. So it's not an easy schedule for Vancouver, and Halak's going to have to play against probably some pretty good opponents as well, including tonight's game against St. Louis, who admittedly have only won 3 of their last 12. Phil Kessel last night passed Doug Jarvis, 965th game. There wasn't nearly as much hoopla around it because Keith Yandle already passed that. Yandel's ahead of Kessel. So for Phil Kessel, he's number 2 on the Ironman list. I do wonder with the amount of time now that we see players held out of a lineup for precautionary reasons, the amount of time, especially as we get towards the playoffs, guys will get held out just for rest and whatnot. I don't know that this record for games played that now we've seen Yandle and Kessel both pass. I don't know that we ever see anybody pass the records that they've set and they continue to set. I think for Kessel and Yandle, I think wherever they end up, whether it's over 1,000 games, wherever it ends up, I think those records are pretty safe for at least quite a while. And again, the way that coaches rest players, the way that GMs are with resting players and wanting guys to get rested, it's quite possible we don't see Ironman streaks get this far again. The GM meetings start today in Florida. It's the first time they've met in person since the start of the pandemic. So these meetings are seen as being pretty packed. This one, they're going to talk about the World Cup of Hockey. They're going to have discussions on that. They're saving the LTIR discussion for the playoffs for tomorrow. Now, here's the thing. The GMs can come out and make a recommendation. But if anything's going to change when it comes to how long-term injured reserve in the playoffs works, it comes down to the CBA. So it has to be agreed upon by the NHL and the NHL Players Association. So it's not as simple as the GMs coming out and saying, yeah, we want to close that, and then just, yeah, okay, it's closed. It has to be agreed upon as an adjustment to the CBA. And then it gets kind of dicey because then the players might go, oh, okay, because there's this other part of the CBA we'd like to adjust. And yeah, it can get kind of rough from there. Keep in mind, the reason that the LTIR loophole in the playoffs exists is players are paid during the season. So your pay during the season is all paid out, and then the playoffs are considered not to be the part where they're paid for. Now, there is pay for the playoffs. Teams that win in each round get more money from the playoff coffers, but they don't make anywhere near as much money as they make during the regular season, obviously. So their paychecks are all done before the playoffs start. Be kind of awkward if they weren't, because for half the teams in the league, they're not going to make the playoffs. So the LTIR loophole exists because in the playoffs, you're not getting paid. And again, I'm not saying they don't get money. I'm saying that your paycheck, your salary for the year has already been paid, and now you're playing for playoff money, or that silver cup that they raise up over their head in June. So that's why that's there. And again, if you're going to change that, it could lead to other parts of the CBA maybe being looked at. And again, I don't know how anxious the NHL and the NHLPA, about a year out from agreeing on the brand new agreement, are going to be to reinvestigate and reopen things. This is something that I think if they were really concerned about, they would have closed that when they agreed on the brand new CBA. They did make changes in the brand new CBA. That was not one of them. So there are some GMs who may be upset about all this, but I don't know that it necessarily changes. And I think with the flat cap, and I've said this a lot, but the flat cap I think has had a huge impact on this, where teams are just right up against the cap, and you do whatever you have to do in order to try to win, and that leads to some behavior that we may not like. But for a general manager, your job is to win. So if there's a loophole that exists that can help you win, I think you take advantage of it. Because I think the other option being, well, yeah, we lost in the second round, but I didn't want to do something that might be unsavory. The owner's response could very well be, I respect that, and you're fired, and here's your replacement. So, yeah, the other thing, too, they're going to be talking about in these meetings, respect in the workplace. Sheldon Kennedy's respect group being in, and they're going to talk about respect in the workplace and stuff that, just personally speaking, it sounds like the kind of stuff I was learning about in workplaces 15 years ago. But that's okay. If the NHL is learning about all this now and how to have a reporting mechanism that works for players and for staff working for teams, as long as they get it in place, I mean, it's better late than never. So yeah, we'll see what comes out of these GM meetings. They're going for today and tomorrow, and then it's likely that on Wednesday we'll have a lot to talk about with that. And of course, with the World Cup, I'm going to agree with this. If the World Cup's that important, why don't they have it on a regular schedule? I think it's Pierre LeBrun said on TSN that it doesn't make any sense that they had it in 2016 and then they don't have it again until now they're planning 2024. That's too far apart. If they want to make it seem like it's important, you need to have it at a regular interval. You need to have it on a regular schedule. Otherwise, it looks like this random thing they throw out there once in a while is kind of a cash grab. And the way that the 2016 one was set up, like the young North American stars and then Team Europe that cobbled together players from nations that didn't have enough players to have just a whole country, just the way that whole thing was set up, it just felt off. There was just something about that felt kind of showy and not like a legitimate. And I think part of it is the name of it is the World Cup of Hockey. World Cup has this big, grand idea behind it. Like yesterday, Team Canada qualifies for the World Cup of Soccer. And I am absolutely ecstatic that Canada's in the World Cup. And I don't care if they end up in a group of death. I don't care. I think it's great that Canada's made it into a World Cup. I think that's going to be fantastic for soccer in this country. So coming back to the World Cup of Hockey, I understand people say, well, there's no point in putting in other countries because they're just going to get destroyed. That's not the point. Canada is not winning the World Cup of Soccer. They're not. And I don't think there's any Canadians who think they're going to win. But the fact that they're there is important. So the idea that if you're going to have a World Cup of Hockey, it should feel important. There should be a build towards it. And it shouldn't matter if you have, say, 12 countries in it and only 6 of them are competing for that top spot. Having that exposure in those other countries, having it where it feels like it's this big deal would be really important to growing the game in general. Because we hear a lot of talk about growing the game. And then when I look at what the NHL does, I don't know how much it actually grows the game. I think that's a whole discussion to have in the offseason. Has the NHL done a good job of growing the sport, growing the game, in relation to other North American sports? And just on a global level, has there been any movement in the sport of ice hockey? I think there's an argument to be made that there hasn't been that much of a movement. So, coming back to the World Cup, if you're going to call it a World Cup of Hockey, and you're not going to call it the NHL International Showcase or something like that, right? Then have it where it is a World Cup and where it feels important. And so that you may have a country that might otherwise not have been there. You know, say there's a team out of Ireland. There's an Irish national team that goes on this run and they end up qualifying. Great. Because while they may get destroyed 28-0 by, all-stars from Canada, being there is important. And again, coming back to Team Canada, getting into that World Cup is important for the sport in this country, and it gives that much more credibility to Canadian soccer players. So we'll see if that actually comes down or not, and what the plan is. I would think they probably run it the same as the one in 2016. I'll be highly disappointed, but that's the way that works. So there you go. News of the day. I guess I have to throw in there too because last night Twitter was absolutely just about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. So I'll weigh in here because I don't think I need to do an entire entertainment guy video on what happened. I know that if somebody's making a joke about my wife's health condition, I'd be very upset. I also don't think I'd get up and necessarily slap a person over it. So I think that what happened was just one of those, in the heat of the moment kind of things. But man, you were in front of millions of people doing that. So the way that I put it to my wife, who of course isn't home right now, I said I think this is going to hurt Will's career. Will's known as a very family-friendly, great, easygoing guy, and that did not look very easygoing or family-friendly. It just, and again, I understand his upset, but that's not the way to go about it. You don't just get up and, on stage, you approach him after and go, dude, that was not cool. So you find, and I think being Will Smith, he could probably find Chris Rock and talk to him and say, look, I didn't like that joke you made about my wife because, and then, have a talk with him. And then Chris has seemed like a guy that wouldn't make that joke if he didn't have to. That's not the right way to put it. I don't think Chris would make that joke if he knew it was going to upset Will that much. So I don't think that would have happened. But anyways, that's my take. And again, I'm throwing that into this video because it's everywhere. Every hockey account I followed was talking about it. So I thought, I think, even though it's not on the board, I need to at least mention it here. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. And again, I think this is a situation that, if that had not been a live broadcast, I don't think it makes it to air. And the discussion as well is one of, should Will have been kicked out for slapping somebody on stage? My answer is yes. Even though you know he's going to win an award, fine. Then let Jada go up and get the award for him. That would have been fair. Will's out, and you let Jada go up and accept the award. I think that would have worked. But anyways, that's just my take. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, can't believe I'm talking about this in a hockey video. Anyways, thank you guys so much. But again, it just seemed like that was everywhere, so I might as well throw my take, because I've already seen comments and little jokes and this and that. And again, I shouldn't have been on the air. And distasteful jokes are distasteful jokes. I didn't think the joke was overly funny either, and now that joke, as I saw online too, it will live forever. So it's rough when you make a joke that really wasn't that funny to start with. Make it so it's blown up and people will never forget it. So anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happen upon this video. I will talk to you again soon.